One of my best friends in this business, a truly warm, nice, but also incredibly intelligent and funny person, which would teach us tons of things. So welcome on stage, please, Aerts. Yeah, you remember Els? Those were the days, right? Yeah, that's fantastic. So, yeah, gone with the bounce. What that means is that if you don't manage to capture your visitors' interest and propose your value offer and all those things, like in an instant, they are gone with a bounce. But if you manage to overcome that, then you can create epic customer success. And the real inroad to understanding what is it that you need to communicate to your visitors is by asking the right questions. And weirdly enough, in this like customer-obsessed, customer-centric world, the art of asking those questions has apparently become lost. But somebody's going to help us finding them again. So, stage is yours.
Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. I couldn't believe John was talking about me when he announced me, so imagine my surprise is as big as yours when I walked on. I'm going to start this talk on the art of asking questions by, you guessed it, asking you guys a couple of questions. Don't worry, I know you just ate, so I'm not asking you anything difficult. I'm just going to ask you to raise your hands. First off, how many of you know the difference between qualitative research and quantitative research? Hands up, please. Okay, that's quite a lot of you. Don't worry if you don't. The answer will become clear in about a minute or so. Now, how many of you prefer quantitative data over qualitative data? Hands up, please. Okay, quite a few of you. Oh, okay. Valerie, why do you prefer quantitative over qualitative? Oh, I'm sorry. I should have specified this sooner. Please use numbers only in your response. Yes, I roped Valerie into a reenactment of one of my favorite cartoons. This is a favorite of mine, well, because it explains the difference between quantitative research, how many, and qualitative research, why. And I think it also really shows that you need to do both. It's not an either-or question here. Both are necessary to do good optimization work. Now, for today, I'm going to focus on the qualitative part. And in the qualitative part, questions are very important. Now, you might think, that's easy. I ask questions every day. Yeah, it's not actually that easy. You see, you can't just ask people what you want to know. It's not that simple. That's just not me saying that. That's one of my absolute research heroes, Erica Hall. What this means is that your research question is not the same as your survey or your interview question. Let me explain this a bit better. Your research question is actually, what are you trying to find out? So for example, you might want to find out how well does our website answer prospective customers' questions. But if you ask that question like that directly to your customers, you're not going to get good answers because that question is too big. It pertains to the value proposition on your homepage, the clarity of the copy of your product page, the design of your pricing page. It's too much. You need to break your research question down into more manageable survey questions, interview questions. Like, for example, a survey question in this case could be, what's holding you back from completing your purchase today? Or if you're doing interviews, please talk me through your most recent purchase on our website. Now, you probably noticed that so far I've only talked about surveys and interviews. And if you know a little bit about me, you're probably thinking, not user testing? I thought you were this old school usability gal and that you loved user testing. I do. I love user testing. But User testing is not about asking questions. User testing is about setting tasks. Because in user testing, we're not after people's opinions. We're after observing behavior. Another thing you're probably thinking is, really, else? You brought us here to talk about surveys. Surveys. I know. A lot of people I respect very much in this industry, say surveys suck. I disagree with this vehemently, and I take a much more nuanced view, which is that, yeah, most surveys suck. It's true. Surveys can be good user research, though. If you dissuade yourself from the idea that you have to think of them as quantitative research, you have to let go of the idea that you need to look for statistical significance here. You have to think of them in terms of quality. Now, I'll go a little bit deeper into specific question-asking techniques for surveys and for interviews separately later, but first I want to talk about some things that are really the same for both of these question types that you set up. Tips for surveys and interview questions. First off, you have to ask the right people. You can't just go out and ask anybody about something very specific, right? I know that coffee shop testing and surveying is very popular, but if those are not your customers, it's actually pretty useless. Like, for example, if you have a yoga app and you want to know what drives daily use of that app, you should really start by talking to the people who use it daily already. What do they like so much about it? What is their routine like? How does it fit into their lives? And of course, you have to ask the right questions. And that starts by refraining from expecting your customers to predict the future for you. I see this happening quite a lot. Companies asking their customers, would you use our website or our product more regularly if we added feature X, Y, or Z? You're basically just asking to be lied to. Nobody can predict that kind of future behavior. On the other side of the spectrum, you shouldn't ask questions about the too distant past either. I mean, if you want to know how people experienced your onboarding, you should ask them right after they've gone through that and not wait 6 months, because human memory is extremely fallible. I mean, I know for a fact some of you can't even remember what they had for breakfast yesterday. So how are you going to remember what the onboarding of a specific tool was like 6 months ago? But the thing is, if you ask people, they will want to be accommodating and they will answer you and you will be lied to. So just don't ask. Of course, we all know you shouldn't ask leading questions. Now, what is a leading question anyway? A leading question is a question that in itself holds the desired answer. Now, as John mentioned, you will get sent a survey after this conference, like so many conferences do, and just imagine that this would be one of the questions. How brilliant would you say Conversion Jam was? Right? Like, we know it was brilliant. We just want you to tell us how brilliant it was exactly. Now, if you have to use an adjective in your question, use both the positive and the negative. Or leave out adjectives and just go for a neutral verb. How would you rate Conversion Jam? Now, I say neutral verb because, yes, also with verbs, you can go horribly wrong. Twitter polls, don't you love them? Do you love working remotely? What do you think the answers to this is going to be? Of course. The way this is phrased is skewed towards people saying yes. This is your question. These are your answer options. You cannot be serious, right? This is not how you ask people questions. This is biasing already in your question. And that is a thing you absolutely shouldn't do. Until you should. Hear me out. This is a survey that was run by Dutch insurance company Centraal Beheer on their website. And it was shown after people completed a task on the website, like they sent a form or a request for a quote. And people got asked, how hard was it to reach your goal? And they got shown the usabilla emoji. Now, they got okay user feedback, user ratings, and they got a lot of input in the open question they asked after this. Now, at a certain point, Centraal Beheer management, as management is wont to do, asked the team, could we crank up our user satisfaction numbers? And the team said, okay. Well, just, mess around with the survey a little. So they changed the wording. And they went to, it was easy to reach my goal. What do you think happened to customer satisfaction numbers? Yes, quiet people of Stockholm. They went up. You know what also happened? My God. You don't? The input from the open question plummeted. It almost evaporated because that negatively worded question, how hard was it to reach your goal, made people think about the hard parts of the process. And so actually primed them to give better input in the open question field. And I think this is a great example because this is, to me, why we do these surveys. We don't do these surveys to present pretty numbers to management. Fuck that. We do these surveys to find out what is hurting our users. We do these surveys to find out more about them, to increase the customer experience, to increase our conversions. Now, I talked about leading questions. What you also shouldn't do is ask loaded questions. But before we go deeper into that, I want to take a moment and just, applaud John's acting capabilities. Can I just get a hand for John, please? This was a green screen, people. Look at the eyes. It's just amazing, right? What a star. Anyway, back to loaded questions. Yeah. I see some of you snigger, see what I did there? This is wrong. How do you rate superstar host John Ekman? We all know he's a superstar. But seriously, if I worded it like that, it would be like daring you to rate him low. That would be like saying, how do you rate best-selling author Stephen van Bellingham's new book? It's good, okay, it's really good. But no, leave all of that out. What you want is neutral feedback. Now, maybe you're thinking, Alice, are you using all of these made-up questions because surveys in the wild really aren't that bad anymore? Yeah, no. I know there are Dutch speakers in the room, because I know there are fellow Belgians here. But for you non-Dutch speakers, let me translate this. This is a survey from the Dutch version of Business Insider magazine. And the question is, which word do you think describes Business Insider best? And the options are surprising, useful, fun, reliable. That's it. That's it. Not a single negative in there. Not one. What is the point of this survey? Are they going to make a pie chart because these are the type of folks that make pie charts, right, Michelle? And are they going to use it like kick off the office party or something in a good way? Oh, man. See, this type of question is exactly why we need good question hygiene. When you write up questions for a survey, when you write up questions for your interview scenario, have somebody else read through them. Preferably somebody from a different gender. Preferably somebody in a different age group. Preferably somebody who's not doing the same job you're doing. They are much more prone to pick out these biases that you might have introduced. Also, don't just create the survey and then just woof, send it out to everybody all at once. No, send it out to a small test batch. have a look at the answers when they come in and see, okay, are we seeing anything weird? Are we seeing anything weird that could be explained by maybe asking the question in a wrong way? Fix it, then send it out. Interviews, the same thing. Do a couple of interviews, have a look at the transcripts, have a listen to the audio, and think, how could I improve this? Now, all of these tips that I've talked about so far hold true for both surveys and for interviews. Now I'm going to dig a little bit deeper into a number of specifics for web surveys. Now for web surveys, something very important is you need to get your time and your place right. That this is still a problem I experienced when I visited the website of my beloved home country, Belgium, the other day. I did a search and sadly, no results matched my search. I could have gotten over this if the good people of Belgium had not taken upon themselves at that moment to ask me, how is your experience going? Really? Can't you tell? I'm on a 0 results search page. You should know this. This is not the time to ask me this. Since this goes wrong still so often, I have taken it upon myself to design, and you will see that I use this word really loosely. I designed a pop-up survey decision chart. So you have a reason why you do a survey, and the chart will tell you when to do it and where to place the pop-up. Now, I want to talk about a survey that we do very often in our information architecture optimization projects, which is what we call a top task survey. We ask two things. Basically, the first is, who are you? To sort of get a better understanding of our audience. And the second is an open question. It's usually something like, what is the purpose of your visit to this website? Or what question brought you to our website today? Added by, and this is very important, please be as specific as possible. Adding those few words really made a difference because we got far fewer answers of people saying, information, info. Just looking for information, shit you can't do anything with, right? Adding these few words. If you tell people what to do, very often, they'll listen. Now, this survey, and this is an open field, please tell us what you're here for, because we want to capture people's true intent, and we want to capture it in their own words. Which is why this survey is shown right at the start of a visit, before people have had a chance to examine the menu or the copy on the page, because I don't want them to parrot my words back to me. I want them to use their own words. So as the survey says, top task survey is shown upon entry and in the center of the screen. Now, a survey you're probably more familiar with is the exit survey. This is an example of the exit survey on HubSpot Academy. If you left a training page without signing up, you got a little pop-up that appeared from the bottom right that said, not for you, tell us why. HubSpot team got a ton of feedback through this. Very simple question, very open question. They got loads of different feedback. And they used all of that feedback to inform their testing, to create hypotheses. They made changes to the layout. They create copy changes, and they tested all of that and resulted in a big win for them. Now, the not so nice thing about this type of survey, if you've ever run it, is an extremely low response rate. Now, I've told you before, it's not a numbers game. It's not about getting hundreds or thousands of answers. But if you only get 6, that's not great. Response rate for this type of survey, 1% to 3%. If you're HubSpot, that don't matter. They have millions of users. If you live in a small country, Belgium, even on a big brand website like Carglass, you need to put this survey in the middle of the screen. You might think it's on the left. I just left room for the translation. Wait, before you go, there's one more question. What's the main reason you're not booking an appointment today? Carglass, the people who fix your windows. This got us 2.5 times more answers than having the survey slide up at the right bottom side. So again, as the chart says, if you're doing an exit survey, do it upon exit intent. I know this is only for desktop, mobile. You have to figure out what the best delay time is. And you either do a slide up or you put it in the middle, depending. Now, of course, there are loads more questions you could ask. And a slide in is always, less confrontational. But you're probably thinking, but when? do I show this survey else? Well, I can tell you that after years and years of research, like Tom, I have been in this business for 20 years, that actually, it fucking depends, people. You have to think for yourself. None of these charts and do this and then you will receive this, none of this matters. This is why we're here. We're here to learn. Yes, there are usability principles, but very often you have to look at your specific situation to find out what works best. These pop-up surveys, you need them on low-volume websites. If you have a ton of visitors, you can just put a survey in page. As a matter of fact, I know a place where every one of you can put a survey in the page itself. It's a place that is just so undervalued for using surveys, which is your confirmation or your thank you page. I mean, think about it. This is the page. People are here. Unlike the 0 results page, people who are here are happy. They like you because they've just bought something for you or they've requested an offer. They've done something. So what you should do is you should say thank you for doing this, give them the information they need, and then say, hey, I might have a few more questions for you. Like this is Carglass again. We ask them, was there anything that prevented you from booking an appointment today? And again, please be as specific as possible. You know, what could we have done to make this easier for you? And this is a survey questions that you can rotate. You can ask these questions this month, and next month you might be able to do some competitive research. You might ask, before buying from us, did you consider a competitor? If yes, who? What was the most important thing that made you decide on us? This is a gold mine for asking questions. Response rate on this page for Carglass, over 50%. Crazy, because people are primed to want to help you. They're in a good mood with you. Now, these are some tips for surveys, web surveys. I also have some specific tips for interviews. Now, interviews are a bigger hassle to do than surveys, it's true. Because you have to plan them, you have to book them, you have to find the right people, which is even harder than for surveys. But I can tell you, interviews are totally worth it. Somebody else who knows this is Rand Fishkin. You might know him from Moz or SparkToro. And when Hotjar interviewed Rand about, the main lessons that he's learned from building a multi-million-dollar company, this is Rand's lesson number 1. Nothing beats talking directly to your users. Hallelujah. I absolutely agree. Now, the first rule of interviews is don't call it an interview. If you're recruiting people, call it a chat. An interview sounds really formal and official. It's like it sets a very strange set of expectations. Just call up your customers and say, would you be free for a 50-minute chat about the way you use our product and how we could help you improve it? Does that mean you should be unprepared because it's just a chat? You should be very prepared. We talked about our scenario earlier. You have to have that scenario ready. You have to have that scenario practiced. You have to have even follow-up questions ready for possible answers. But what you shouldn't do is treat that scenario like a straitjacket. You have to be loose with it. Very often, when you're having this chat with a client or a prospective client, and you ask them the first question, people will start talking. And they keep on talking and talking. Some people really like talking. And not only will they have answered your first question, but also your second, and maybe even your fifth. That's your job, to identify those answers. The worst thing you can do when the person stops talking is going, okay, and so my second question was, well, you've already sort of answered it, but anyway, nah. That immediately just breaks the whole idea that you're having a conversation or a chat and turns it into interview. No, it's your job to listen. Don't even take that many notes. Record your interview, listen back to it, transcribe it, then do the work on it. When you're there, when you're actually talking to the people, your most important job is to listen. Now, we also have some specific tips for questions in user testing. And if you've paid careful attention earlier, you're probably thinking, what? You said user testing wasn't about asking questions. I did. I lied. It's not true. It is about setting tasks, but if you've ever done user testing, you know that your test participants will talk. Actually, I like to say that 99% of the talking during a user test should be done by your test participant. And sometimes they don't just talk, they ask you questions. What you shouldn't do is answer those questions. So I'm going to teach you 3 techniques to sort of volley questions back to them. The first one is called echo. If you've ever done a user test on a site that wasn't that great, you've had a test participant go, well, that's weird. And then they stop talking. The only thing you have to do to get them talking again is repeat, echo the last word they said in a slightly inquisitive tone. You just go, weird? Oh, that sets them off straight again. Now, note, please, that I said slightly inquisitive tone, because if you go, weird? That is not invite conversation. That makes you sound a bit like the Gestapo. That's not good. Just echo the last word back to them. Sometimes they will outright ask you a question. You're on an e-commerce website, they're going through the checkout, and all of a sudden they go, oh wait, what's the return policy on this site? When they throw that question to you, you just boomerang that back to them and go, what do you think the return policy on this website is? Oh, well, actually, I haven't noticed. I'll go look for it. I'll scroll down to the footer. Fine. A last technique you can use is Columbo. Now, I can see some puzzled looks on young people's faces. Yeah. Young people. Anyway, Columbo is a TV detective from the 70s, where I'm from. And he solved cases by being extremely smart, but acting rather dim. And sometimes that is also what you as a moderator should do. Just imagine, you're on a website, test participant is filling out a form, they're pressing send, and well, nothing. And so they look up and they go, did it go through? And you go, when they see you fumble like that, they are super happy to take control again and go like, well, yeah, I just pressed the send button. So I was expecting to see sort of like a page that says, we've received your request for offer. We'll get back to you in 48 hours. And actually, I would really like them to send me an email as well. By not replying, by leaving it up to your test participant, you will get a lot more information. Doing good research is about asking the right questions. And so I'd like to wrap this up by asking you one final question. Which questions are you going to ask your customers, your prospects next week? Thank you very much.